So yeah, thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm here with the wonderful Melissa Flores here. She's going to be answering a few questions for us around Power Rangers Prime, Power Rangers as a brand, and then also some career opinions and advice for those aspiring creatives out there in the fan base. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course. Hello. Thank you for having me.
So if you may start off with the first question here, it's when you found out that issue 16 would be the final issue of Power Rangers Prime. Was there a distinct story element that you had maybe brewing that made you think that's it, oh, that's where we need to go for the overarching narrative, or did you have to go back to the drawing board and maybe refine some elements?
Um, I think the latter was probably I had a very specific when I started Power Rangers Prime, I had a very specific story in mind. That was going to initially tie back to Darkest Hour. And the the reality with a licensed property like this is that, it is ultimately not your sandbox. You're just playing in it. And so with Power Rangers Prime in 16 issues, we had three different editors. And so it just, with every change, everybody has a different idea of what they think a series should be. So ultimately, I wasn't able to do that. So I had a couple different pitches that I really tried to hone in on. They wanted very specifically, I found out around issue 12, and they wanted very specifically, as we're developing the next arc, to make sure all the characters were wrapped up and there wasn't anything that every character felt like they had run they had its journey through the 16 issues or this 4 issue arc. So, so it was a lot of just trying to figure out how to satisfy that while also uh, doing what I could within the constraints that I could. I had been building up to Zords and Megazords for 12 issues, and that was another thing I was asked not to do. So it was a lot of changing things around. Hope I got to a place that I hope that I was the fans can be happy with. I really wanted to kind of come full circle a little bit and make it feel like this isn't an ending, but a new beginning that maybe we see off screen in the issues. But we've come to a place where the Altarians are at least, I don't know if they were okay with Power Rangers, but they're like, well, the worst has happened. Now we
Yeah,
just have to live with it. But there's a lot there's a lot of story that we can still do in the Prime universe,
yeah,
but at least it feels like we've got a little bit of a circle. And
yeah,
that's what I'm happy with. Like I read the last issue and I was like, okay, I'm okay with this. Like this I I'm okay with what I wanted to see at the end. Like I really
yeah,
wanted to think about what it meant to be Rangers. I kind of expressed a lot of how I felt about the brand in those final pages when Rita was talking to Orion. And so I was good at the end. I think I felt really
yeah.
proud of it.
I'd say there's a line in the last issue that's there is no better, there's just different. And I think that's a
Yeah.
very strong way to end this series and quite pertinent in a way for the themes that are throughout the Prime run. I think
Yeah.
that's a very, very strong way to end it and end it for now, potentially. We may see the Rangers again, as you say. Um, apologies if this has also been highlighted in a previous interview, but I have to absolutely mention my childhood heroes of the virtual reality in the VR Troopers. You mentioned obviously about how Zords weren't something you could do. Was there a mandate in terms of characters to bring back versus including new Prime exclusive people, such as VR Troopers? Were they asked to bring back like Lauren and Orion, or were they your choices?
What do you mean? Do you mean for the Prime series or for
For
the
the Prime
finale?
series, yeah, was they your choices to bring back, or were they asked
So
this
the
team to
VR
bring them back?
Troopers was not my idea. The VR Troopers was the brainchild of Bryce Carlson, who is still at Boom, I think in a different capacity, but he had been wanting to have VR Troopers in the series since, I was an executive on the brand. Like it's been his baby. And so when Prime became a thing, he's like, we got the VR Troopers. And so it was just a matter of like figuring out how they fit into the world and
Yeah,
what they did in order to eventually, hopefully, have them do their own series. But for now, they would be living in our world and I wanted them to be the antagonist because it just made sense given what the world looks like. Um, as far as the Rangers, they were lovely. They allowed me to to kind of pick and choose and pitch what I wanted. And what I wanted was a mix of new characters and old characters. Initially, I went very close. I went almost all uh original characters in some form or another. And they
Yeah.
were like, they really challenged me to be like, just do something new, do something different. Don't stick close to MMPR. Like, just really challenge yourself to try and find a completely different group. And so I was like, okay, well then let's just do two original and let's do Lauren, who I she was the first one I thought of just because I needed a Ranger set that wasn't tied to Zordon.
Yeah.
And so that left a couple teams, but Samurai was the one that I had worked on in when I worked at Saban, so it made sense. And I've always felt like Lauren didn't get enough flowers in the series, just because of the footage. You only see her a couple times, and I
Yeah.
just wanted to give her a little more boost. And I kind of fell in love with the way Kyle wrote her in Shattered Grid. So I wanted to utilize her a little bit. And so, like, okay, she's a Red Ranger. I wanted a male Pink Ranger because I think it's time that we have one. And I didn't want it to be a big deal. I love this idea of all the Pink Rangers just being these really like inwardly, if you notice, they all seem full of freaking rage a lot of times, at least the most iconic ones, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But they also are like the heart and soul and strength of the team. Like, the team does not work without their Pink Rangers.
No.
And so I felt like Orion from Megaforce was such a beautiful character in that regard. He just had so much happen to him, and he was so resilient, and he still had so much faith and love. And I love Cameron Gibo, who plays the character, and I was like, I want him to be he'd be an amazing Pink Ranger. And
Yeah.
so that put them in. And then then it came a matter of, okay, now we need a blue, a yellow, and a black. And I wanted an Eltarian. So that's how June came about. And I wanted an Aquitian. So Mark was initially supposed to be Billy's son, but it was decided that like it was too closely tied to MMPR still, and so he just ended up being, yeah, he ended up having an unknown father and a human mother,
Yeah.
and so that became Mark. And I really wanted to address the idea of refugees if Earth was colonized. And then Valentina, I needed an Earth character. I needed a I needed a regular Earth character, somebody who's maybe in a little position of privilege, but
Mm.
not nearly the position that June was, and that's how Valentina came about.
Oh, wow.
And then when it came a time of like, okay, choosing a mentor, quote unquote, and a sixth ranger, um, I was just thinking like who would be the worst possible person.
Mm.
And I had left Rita in the dumpster in the darkest hour. And so so it just made sense that it would be a different kind of Rita that came out of the dumpster. Um, if in fact, and I can't say she is or she isn't, my intention was always that it was the same Rita, just a Rita that had experienced the shattering of the grid, which means she saw everything. And when she came out, it had changed her. So we don't know exactly which Rita comes out of the dumpster. We just know it's a Rita that remembers everything, and not just the stuff that happened in Darkest Hour, but everything,
Yeah.
and has really no idea what her reality is at this point. So she's not really surprised that Eltarian's taken over Earth. It's just like, I don't know what world I'm in. And so she came on board, and it just made most sense that she would then become the Sixth Ranger. Because after she gives these powers to these kids and they're doing terribly with it, she's like, fine, I'll freaking do it myself, you idiots, So that's how that came about.
I mean, that kind of actually things you said there have kind of follow on to my next question, which is that this is very much your story and therefore your team. Did you have
Right.
much say in the colors of the Prime Rangers, or they ask you for it to be MMPR adjacent, but you could mix and match genders?
It's just kind of a thing that happened naturally. I don't even remember. I'm going to be honest. I don't even remember having a conversation about it should be MMPR. Or maybe it did. It's been such a long time. But I remember Dan was designing the suits, and it was up to me to decide the colors and the beasts, the animals. And so we ended up going back and forth, and I decided I really fell in love with that Japanese art. What is it called? I feel so bad. I feel so prepared for this. So there's a Japanese art where like if your pot shatters, you put it back together with gold.
Oh, I'm familiar. Yeah, I can't remember the name, but I know what
Yeah.
you're talking about, actually.
And I was like, that's the coin because it's Rita, and
Yeah.
she, and it's in the aftermath of like a shattered grid, so it makes sense that these coins are put together in that way. And they would be, in each one was going to be a mix of precious metal and a beast, but it wouldn't be Mighty Morphin Power Ranger beast. It would be what Rita saw as the most powerful creatures on Earth. So that's how we ended up with all the different animals.
Oh, amazing.
Wow. So it wasn't just animals that existed. It was like a griffin, it was a basilisk, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and so they loved that. They were completely on board. Uh, and then Dan designed the suits, and I can't remember who said it was going to be MMPR adjacent. I don't know if it was me, and I'll fully take it if it was, but I truly do. I'd have to like look at my emails.
Yeah.
I just remember seeing the suit, and Dan just always knocks it out of the park.
Yeah.
But it was a true group effort, and I tried to give Dan direction, but I also didn't want him to feel like I was directing any of it
Yeah.
because he's the artist, I'm not.
That's amazing. Um, we obviously, as you've mentioned as well, we know you've been involved with the brand before now in some serious ways. What is it about Power Rangers that keeps bringing you back? Like in particular, what's that brand mean to you?
Um, I mean, it's been a brand that I've been very close to. It's one I feel I know very, very well, and I feel like there's no other superhero franchise like this
Hmm.
around. I think for me, it's also just the fans. The fans always bring me back. I know they have so much love for the brand, and I feel like they need somebody in their corner that loves it as much as they do. But I truly just I have a love for the brand, and I had told I'd always said, as long as they want me to write the books, I will happily write the books. And so yeah, I don't think it's ever even come back. It was just, it's a gig, and it's always, I like work, but it's also something that I feel very passionate about. And in my opinion, you can't write something if you don't love it. And I
Good.
was always happy to love it. I was really grateful and thankful for the opportunity that Boom gave me and the trust it gave me to do something like Prime and Darkest Hour. I did that for what, 2 years now? Something like that.
Yeah,
Been longer.
about that, yeah.
So I had a really good run. I can't complain about that. I was very thankful and lucky that I was with it for so long. I keep thinking I'm gonna be done, and then something always pulls me back.
Yeah. So
But
is something currently maybe pulling you back now, or is at the moment?
uh, not anything I can talk about. So,
Fair
um,
enough.
but yeah, I mean, I'm done with the comic books for sure, at least at
Yeah.
this point. But but I really enjoyed my time with them, and I'm so thankful and grateful that I had the opportunity.
Amazing. Well, obviously, with your love of the brand, this is more of a fun question potentially. What is something that Power Rangers as a brand has yet to do that you would absolutely adore being involved in doing? So whether that be a form of media, even though in fairness, 30
I
years is a lot, or is there a particular story that you feel that would resonate with modern audience? It's something you'd really like to do?
I pitched so hard when I was an executive an anime version of Power Rangers, animated, but
Really?
like anime manga, like really like anime hardcore. And so I thought that the medium lent itself really well to it. The action scenes, everything. I think we had like hit a really beautiful formula with the Boom comic books in which, you could tell a family-friendly story, but with a more adult focus or actually real stakes and real character development. And I really wanted that. Um, and I never was able to take it across the plate. That would be
Yeah,
so. Being able to do something like that would be great. I understand though that what makes Power Rangers special and what felt special about it at the time is the live action components. But I do feel like, in order to evolve the brand, it would have been something very cool
yeah,
as a brand building tool. That would allow us to do something a little different, like we did with the comic books, or like Hyperforce, or the video games. That we tend to find really a lot of success in those buckets because I think the fans really enjoy. being taken seriously, at least the older fans, in which, they feel like it's something they can really invest in as much as they love the live action series. It's never for them, it's for kids. So I really enjoyed creating content that was for them as well, while also keeping it kid friendly so that a kid could
Yeah.
open up the book and not be scarred for life. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's say that someone comes up to you, tells you they're a huge Power Rangers fan, but have never picked up a comic. With the exception of Prime, which Power Rangers run would you personally recommend to them?
Oh, always the first one, always the one that leads into Shattered Grid.
Yeah.
Because I think Kyle started it in such a beautiful place with Tommy. Everybody remembers Tommy's turn, and just you're dealing with a very human emotion of PTSD and struggling to fit in. And he did that beautifully. So you start with the first one, and then there's lovely arcs throughout,
Mm.
but that first one I think is the reason why a lot of people fell in love with it.
Oh, agreed, 100%. Yeah. I think I would have also gone for, yeah, either the Justice League Power Rangers crossover just for
Oh,
familiarity
Tom
with
Taylor,
people.
yeah,
I think it was a really, even though it was a short run, I really, really enjoyed that. I mean, you could probably
that
tell
was
I'm
fun.
a fan as well. But yeah, that's probably that hit home for me. It was a nice one.
Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah, Tom Taylor's
And
great.
moving on from Power Rangers, if we can, could you maybe tell us a little bit about your creative process when it comes to writing?
Creative process. It's a little instinctual and a little bit of a process. I think I always start big and go small. So
Mhm.
it's more like, what's the story? What's the big challenge? What's the overarching theme that I'm thinking of? What's the thing that has inspired me specifically? Um, so in the case of something like Prime, it was, what if Altarians had colonized Earth? I was really inspired by Ryan Parrott's vision of the Altarians
Mm.
and in Necessary Evil and those and the Altarian War in the comic books. I thought he had done a really good job as painting them as not necessarily fascist, but definitely not nearly as agreeable as they had seemed. And I loved that vision of them and this idea of like if Zordon hadn't been there and the Altarians came and what would that look like? And um and then from there I was like, okay, well they definitely wouldn't want Power Rangers running around. Um and I revealed later, like there's another reason for that. There was this thing of doom that was coming that anytime anybody showed any Power Ranger Morphin Grid energy, it would come and attack them. So the Otarians, their way of peacekeeping was to keep Rangers from using the Morphin Grid. Um, Obviously that failed spectacularly. And so it was just this, okay, so if Power Rangers are outlawed and there's no Zordon, who would be the inciting ranger that was going to kick this off? And so that's how I ended up with Lauren and so that sort of thing and just building a universe. And from there it was building a pitch of what the story would look like and then what would that first arc look like. And I was really encouraged to take my time, which was really lovely. It was just like, okay, um, you don't have to rush into the Zords. You don't have to rush into the. In retrospect, I should have, but uh, but no, I was. You have six new basically brand new characters. You have a brand new world, so you kind of have to take your time.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was kind of like just at that point, it was just finding the medium of like, how can I make sure these characters are properly set up and still not piss off the fans that just want to see Megazords and Zords and Power Rangers and blah
Yeah,
blah blah. So it was always a tricky balance, but I thought I did my best. Thank
you did very well. Yeah.
you.
And that kind of leads into my next question as well is, so what excites you when writing a story, and is it the same as what resonates with you when you're reading or watching other work?
I don't know. I like telling stories. I'm in a weird place. Like I like horror a lot, and I like looking into the darkest part of humanity. But in the reality, it's because I love goodness so much.
Hmm.
I think that's why I love Power Rangers so much. I love this idea of regular people just doing their best. Because I think that's all of us. I think that's everybody. We're not we're superheroes in our own way in that like we all have our own personal challenges. Like there's some times that it just blows my mind that the person sitting next to me is like has as much going on in their head as I do. Like a lot of times I think we forget that everybody around us feels as much as we do, thinks as much as we do, is experiencing the world through their eyes in the same complicated way as we are. And we think they see the world very simply, and we're the only ones that stuff is happening to. And what I love about writing is always just putting myself in other people's shoes and seeing what that journey looks like. And my favorite thing about Power Rangers in general is that, Haim Saban once said it's about good always overcoming evil, no matter what. Um, and it's a very simple idea, but that was my favorite part about the Ranger thing. I think I even said it in Prime. It's like at the end of the day, it's the person, like being a Ranger, just emphasize the best thing inside a person. So you can take the most flawed, complicated person and you find that one good thing about them and you amplify it and you make these good choices, or you make horrible choices and you pay the price for them. So it depends on the story. It depends on what I'm trying to do. But at the end of the day, I've always been in love with just really strong, diverse characters. They don't necessarily have to look like me, but I feel like, if they're a little bit underrepresented, I love them that much more. And taking their own hero's journey in a way that you realize that the biggest villain is not somebody else, it's themselves, and overcoming that. And that's usually why I tend to gravitate towards to a lot of mental health stories, to a lot of PTSD, to a lot of trauma. I don't I don't really have as much of that, but I've always been a very empathic person. I always really want to think about those stories, and I think those are the ones that really intrigue me. I think also that's why I've put a lot of romance in some stories. Like it depends on the story.
Hmm.
Or even my horror stories tend to come from a place of feeling. Like I just wrote a short. I think my first short for EC Comics was about a serial killer that killed a little girl and gets like his comeuppance, but he never thinks he's the bad guy. In his head, he was trying to save this little girl
Hmm.
and never really saw what he did was wrong. And it's creepy, like, like her dad tracks him down and kills him. But he doesn't see it coming because he didn't think he was the bad guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a lot of just what's the fun way to tell stories. I've always loved stories ever since I was a kid. Books, TV, video games, anything, movies. I will always consume them, and I just like being able to tell them.
So if you're a horror fan as well, can we expect a Power Rangers Halloween special to be pitched by yourself at some point?
I mean, like I said, I think I'm done with Power Rangers comics for a while, but I'm
Oh,
sure they might have
okay.
something up their sleeves.
Yeah. As you know as well, a career in a creative field is challenging both to obtain and also to maintain, especially with the rise in AI in almost, well, every industry, let's be honest. Is there a piece of advice or a habit or something that you can recall from your earlier career stages that you feel set you on the path towards where you are today?
I mean, I don't want it to be right what you know because I felt that was a really frustrating piece of advice when I was a kid because I'm like I don't feel like I know anything. But truly, it's right what inspires you. Um, like any story, no matter how outlandish and how crazy it is, starts from some sort of human experience. And and if you can connect with somebody on that kind of level, you can tell the craziest, zaniest story. It could be about a shark. It could be, about a rock in space. But if you find a way to make that feel a little more human, I mean, that was like everything everywhere all at once. You have the scene where the two rocks, our mother and daughter, are just talking to each other. But it works because by that time you've invested so much emotion into the journey of that relationship. And And so for me, I wouldn't even say it's not right what you know, because I always felt that was a really frustrating piece of advice because I was just, a kid from LA. At that point, I hadn't seen anything. I didn't feel like I knew anything, but I was inspired by a lot of stuff. And I still am inspired by a lot of stuff. The Dead Lucky was inspired by my girlfriend, who's a veteran who has PTSD. Power Rangers Prime was very much inspired by the Altarian War and Ryan Parent's Necessary Evil and a bunch of other comics like that, and my, love for Lauren. So you can find inspiration, and that will inspire stories in a way that you didn't expect.
Mm.
You can take small things from your life that inspire you and grow them into something beautiful.
I think that's the beautiful sentiment as well, and one I agree with as well as another other writer and producer myself. Um, to round out the questions here, with Prime now concluded, issue 16 available at all good
Mhm.
comic and book outlets still. Um, what's next for Melissa Flores?
There's not really anything I can talk about right now. Everything's in development. Hopefully I can talk about them soon. We'll see. Currently I'm working on a lot of stuff that's outside of comics, which is why it takes so long. Comics is by far the quickest. There's more Dead Lucky coming, hopefully. We're working on that as we speak. I'm working on a couple other development projects. I'm working on a couple video games. And some other stuff I just can't talk about, and some television stuff and that sort of stuff. In terms of recent stuff that's come out, I wrote on a show called Armosaurs, which is on Disney XD. It's a lot of fun. There is a couple video games I helped work on called War Torn and Failsafe. They're both on Steam if you want to check them out. Um, I'm still doing a bunch of EC comic stuff, which is fun. So if you're in the mood for some anthology shorts, those are wonderful. I finished up a run up on Biker Mice from Mars, which was really fun. And Matt Hodgson came in and took over from that. So yeah, there's a lot. I'm going to be at different conventions as well. So definitely, I think I'll be in Sweet Falls, Sioux Falls. I think I'll be in Sioux Falls pretty soon. I'm going to be in Phoenix. I'm going to be in Chicago again. So I'll be around. I'm running around doing my stuff. But when I can announce something, I absolutely will.
Thank you so much for your time today, Melissa. Do you have any parting words to the Power Ranger fans out there?
Not just thank you for all the support and all the kind words throughout all the years. I really appreciate it. And I never, ever will forget the love. So thank you so much.
No, thank you. I appreciate your time today. And if you watched and enjoyed this and liked to see more of this on Power Ranger, please let me know and please make sure you share this video. Okay, thank you very much.